Tonight, if you check your phone before bed, a small blue rectangle will glow in the dark. You'll scroll for a few minutes. Then you'll put it down and fall asleep, mostly on schedule. But for most of human history, there was another light that did the same thing to your ancestors, and it wasn't in their pocket. It was 384,000 kilometers away. The full moon. You probably think of moonlight as gentle. Romantic, even. Something poets write about, not something that rewires a nervous system. But your ancestors' bodies didn't experience the moon as scenery. They experienced it as a signal. And for a few nights every month, that signal was loud enough to keep them awake. Here's the strange part. This wasn't a myth, and it wasn't superstition. It was measured. In 2021, a research team led by Leandro Casiraghi and Horacio de la Iglesia at the University of Washington tracked sleep in 3 indigenous communities in northern Argentina, communities with little to no access to electric light. What they found surprised even them. Sleep didn't just shift a little around the full moon. It contracted. People went to bed later. They slept less. And the effect peaked in the days leading up to full moon, not on the night itself. Then something even stranger happened. The same pattern showed up in University of Washington undergraduates, students living in a modern city, surrounded by streetlights, phone screens, blackout curtains. Their sleep was still quietly bending around the lunar cycle. Fainter. Delayed. But present. Which raises the obvious question. If electric light drowns out the moon, why is your body still listening to it? The answer starts with what moonlight actually is. Moonlight isn't its own light. It's reflected sunlight, bounced off a dead rock, filtered down to a fraction of its original strength. A full moon is roughly 400,000 times dimmer than the sun. That sounds irrelevant. It isn't. Your eyes contain a special class of light-sensitive cells, discovered in the early 2000s by researchers including David Berson at Brown University. These cells aren't for seeing shapes. They're for detecting brightness, and they feed that information straight into a tiny cluster of neurons above your optic nerve called the suprachiasmatic nucleus. Your master clock. The thing that decides when melatonin, the hormone that makes you sleepy, gets released into your bloodstream. That clock evolved in a world with exactly 2 reliable night lights. Starlight, which is nearly nothing. And moonlight, which, for a few nights a month, is bright enough to register. Bright enough to nudge the clock. Bright enough to say, not yet, stay up a little longer. For nearly 200,000 years, that nudge mattered. Full moon nights were the safest nights to travel outside a cave. Predators that hunted by scent and sound still needed some light to strike efficiently, and moonlight took that advantage away from them. Ancient foragers could see the ground, see each other's faces, see danger coming from a distance. So they used it. They gathered later, walked further, worked past normal sleep hours, because the moon had just handed them extra usable time in a day that otherwise ended the moment the sun went down. Anthropologist Leela McMahon has pointed out that many hunter-gatherer oral traditions built entire ceremonies around the full moon, night hunts, night dances, communal fires that ran until dawn. It wasn't random scheduling. It was biology given a calendar. Here's where it gets even stranger. A separate line of research, led by sleep scientist Christian Cajochen in Switzerland, brought this into a fully controlled lab. No moon visible. No windows. Just healthy adult volunteers sleeping in a sealed sleep lab while researchers secretly tracked the actual lunar phase outside. The result matched what Casiraghi and de la Iglesia found in Argentina years later. Around the full moon, participants took longer to fall asleep, slept for a shorter total time, and showed measurably less deep sleep, even though not one of them could see the moon, and none of them knew what phase it was in. Sit with that for a second. Their bodies knew something their conscious minds didn't. Which means this was never really about seeing the moon. It's about an ancient internal calendar, one your ancestors' bodies quietly ran in the background for the entire span of human evolution, long before anyone invented a written calendar, long before anyone named the months. Now here's the twist that makes this personal instead of historical. You still have that calendar. It's just been buried. Modern life didn't remove the lunar rhythm from your biology. It only replaced the trigger. Where your ancestors got one dependable burst of blue-toned light a month, from the moon, you get that same kind of light every single night, from screens, streetlights, and bulbs that were, not by accident, engineered to mimic daylight. Your suprachiasmatic nucleus doesn't know the difference between moonlight and a phone at 11 p.m. It just knows brightness arrived when it wasn't expecting it, so it delays the sleep signal again. The difference is timing. Your ancestors got that override once a month, tied to a rhythm bigger than themselves. You get it every night, tied to nothing except a habit. Some researchers now think this is one reason moonlight lost its grip on modern sleep almost entirely, while artificial light gained one so fast. The signal your body evolved to respond to occasionally became a signal your environment now sends constantly. What used to be a rare nudge became a nightly demand. There's a strange kind of loneliness in that, if you think about it. Your ancestors' latest nights were shared with an entire tribe, lit by the same moon, timed by the same sky. Your latest nights are usually lit by a screen only you are looking at, in a room where everyone else is asleep. So here's a question worth asking. The next time you're wide awake at midnight for no clear reason, what if it isn't a flaw? What if it's an ancient setting, one built for firelight and moonlight, still running on hardware that no longer gets the signal it was designed for? You are not broken for staying up too late. You are, in a very real sense, still listening for the moon. You just handed the job to something that never turns off. Tonight, when the sun goes down, you'll flip a switch, and a room built for 8,000 years of darkness will fill with light instead. You won't think twice about it. But for most of human history, it wasn't a switch that decided whether your ancestors stayed awake. It was the sky.